and I've never had an issue with lack of protein. Do I look? Okay, well, let's not do that. What is up, everybody? It's Rose and welcome back to Cheap Lazy Vegan. I have another one of these vegan talk videos where I discuss things about veganism and give you my 2 cents about certain things. Today's topic is going to be common arguments against veganism and I guess my thoughts and my response to some of these very common arguments. If you guys are interested in vegan discussions, talks, videos, then I would like you to check out my playlist. I do have a playlist where I discuss vegan topics. So yeah, you can check those out. I don't do these videos too often, but I do like to once in a while throw them out there for you. So check it out. I asked you guys on Instagram a few weeks ago, what are some of the most common arguments you hear against veganism? And many of you guys responded. So I decided to kind of put a compilation of some of the very common arguments I hear and other people hear against veganism and kind of talk about them one by one. First of all, I would like to acknowledge that I have a bit of a sore throat, so if I sound like I'm dying, well, I just have a bit of a sore throat, okay? I was on vacation for the last few days, just a mini vacation, and oh girl, you know. And second of all, I would like to remind you that vegans are not people that just randomly decided to wake up one day and go vegan. At least not me and not many vegans I know. These are people that have been eating animal products since childhood, most of them. People that really enjoyed eating animal products and enjoyed living this way and didn't see any other way until they were given a lot of information and learned a lot about this other way of living that the mainstream society doesn't really talk about. Vegans are people that have done their homework. For the most part. They've done the homework, they've done the research. I tried to not be vegan for a long time. Trust me, it's not something that I was like, ooh, I'm so excited. It was more so something that I found out a lot of information. Given the information that I found out, I could not justify not being vegan eventually. It took me a while to fully transition. It was almost like I couldn't avoid it and I felt morally obligated to do so. Now, of course, looking back, I don't regret it at all. I think it's one of the best decisions I've made. But at that time, I was looking for whatever excuse I could to try to justify the way I was living before, because that's comfortable, right? What's uncomfortable is changing things, changing your lifestyle, going against the grain. There's nothing more uncomfortable than going against society, going against the grain. But when you feel like this is the right thing to do, that's when, you know, you kind of try to fight that urge to just go with the status quo and you start to do things based on your morals and your ethics and based on the greater good of the world. So, oh my gosh, that is a tangent. Holy, I didn't know I was gonna say all that. If we could find a really good reason to not be vegan, I think a lot of people would choose that. You know what I mean? But because the truth is that the current state of animal agriculture is not only extremely bad for the animals, it's also bad for our health and it's also very bad for our environment. That is the truth, and it's the inconvenient truth that we don't want to talk about, but it is unfortunately the truth. Anyways, whew, that is an intro. So now let's discuss the common arguments against veganism. What about protein? Where do you get your protein? Protein though, I was really actually quite surprised at how many times I got this response because I thought we were past that. Come on, society. Come on. I don't even know what to say about this topic other than plants have protein. Seriously, plants have protein. Plants have protein. Plants have protein. I have been meat-free for 7 years, almost, I think. And I've been vegan for 4 years. And I've never had an issue with lack of protein. Do I look? Okay, well, let's not do that. I've never had an issue with lack of protein, ever. And there's so many vegan bodybuilders out there and fitness people that look amazing. And they feel amazing and they have amazing results. They're not protein deficient. So what can I say other than plants have protein and plants have protein? It's natural to eat meat. This one is, oh God, I can't even. First of all, even if we could make the argument that it is natural for humans to eat meat, just because something is natural does not necessarily mean it's a good thing or that we need to continue doing it. In what way is anything that we're doing right now natural? Look at what we're doing. Look at how we live. This camera is not natural. This fake lighting is not natural. We work in concrete buildings, work in a laptop, work in computers. We phone people, we fly across the world. None of this is natural. The way we eat is not natural. Don't pretend that artificially inseminating animals to artificially breed them to this extent so that the human population can consume animal products to the extent that we do is natural. It is not natural what we're doing right now. Even if it was natural to eat meat, which I don't believe it is, and I don't believe that there's any scientific data to prove that to be true, even if it was natural for us to eat meat, it is not natural for us to eat meat to that extent because there is no way that our planet can naturally produce that much meat for this many people. It is not natural. These are factory farmed animals that have been artificially bred and artificially inseminated, basically artificially made so that we could think that this stuff is a natural part of our diet, which it is not. If it was natural, then we would not have to do this. We would not have to put these animals in tiny cages to the point where they cannot move so that the population can eat meat. How is that natural to you? Is that natural? I don't think so. And like I said, going back to my first point, just because something is natural does not mean that it's good and that we should continue to do it. Naturally, humans actually lived very short lives. Okay, people got sick very easily. You could argue that vaccines are not natural. You could argue that medication is not natural. You could argue so many things are not natural, but that doesn't mean that it's bad for us. You know what I mean? Let me give you an example of something that may be natural, but doesn't mean it's a good idea. It is natural for human beings to be able to have babies at a very, very young age. I could have had a child at the age of like 12. Okay, I could have literally been pregnant as a 12-year-old. That would be very natural because my body naturally is able to get impregnated and my eggs are probably at its prime. My babies would probably be really healthy, you know what I mean? But is that a good idea? Probably not. At the age of 12, I'm still like a child. You know what I'm saying? I'm still a child at that age. That's not really a good idea. Our bodies may be saying, okay, here, have babies. But literally, I'm 12. No. Just because something is natural does not mean it's good, does not mean it's for the betterment of society. Something being natural is not a reason to continue to do it, especially when there are multiple alternatives out there. And if you can live a life and not needlessly harm other beings, then maybe that's the way we should live. I don't know. Call me crazy. Plants feel pain. Plants have feelings too. This one always surprises me every time I hear this because it's probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my entire life, but it actually is one of the most common arguments I hear against veganism. In fact, I've actually done an entire video on this topic. I will link that video down below because I think it's still relevant. Obviously, I filmed it a while ago, but I think it's still relevant. To summarize though, I will give you a little bit of summary of what I talk about in the video. Number one, plants do not feel pain. End of discussion. They do not feel pain. They do not have a central nervous system. They do not have feelings. They are not sentient beings, okay? Just because something is alive does not mean it has feelings or that it can feel pain, okay? Just because something is a living thing does not mean that it is a sentient being. That is the big difference between animals and non-animals. Even if it were true that plants feel pain too, how does that justify killing animals? By that logic, if plants have feelings too, and if plants feel pain too, and because it is inevitable to cause some amount of pain by living on this earth, then we should just not give a crap and just cause as much pain as possible? Should we just cause as much harm as possible because we can't avoid causing a little bit of harm? Is that the solution? I don't think so. And my third argument is that actually, even if plants feel pain too, and even if, we believe that plants have feelings, it is still better to be vegan because you're still harming less plants. Because what are the animals eating? They eat plants. So if you're breeding billions and billions and billions of animals into existence, you will be killing not only billions and billions of animals, but you're also killing so many plants. So really, your argument has just kicked you in the butt. Plants do not feel pain, and even if they did feel pain, vegans are still doing less harm by being vegan than by eating animal products. We are at the top of the food chain. Oh God. Honestly, really? Really? Are we just living in Lion King at this point? Oh my God. First of all, we're not. Like, we're not at the top of the food chain. If we were actually out in the wild, are we really at the top of the food chain? You really think that we're at the top of the food chain? What about lions? What about tigers? These predators are probably at the top of the food chain, at least somewhat close to the top of the food chain. We are not even close to that, okay? If we were against the lion, we would be killed and eaten. So doesn't that show already that we're not actually at the top of the food chain? Maybe. Humans have this obsession with ourselves, which I guess is normal, it's natural, whatever. Oh, it's natural. We have been told from the minute we were born that we are above everything else, that we are just some super species and we deserve so much more than any other species. And that is the root of the problem, I believe. I believe that is the root of why we do so many things that are not only harmful for us, but also harmful for the environment and other animals, because we think that we are invincible and that we can do whatever we want and that there will be no consequences. And the way that we treat animals is a huge reflection of that thought process. The fact that we even entertain the idea that we are at the top of the food chain is another reflection of our delusion that we are somehow superior to every other living species. I would like to believe that we are all living on this earth and we are all part of this ecosystem and this planet Earth, and we all need to live here. And it doesn't mean just because certain animals are stronger than other animals, it doesn't mean that those animals should rule above all. We all share this space, okay? And we as humans have taken this space and turned it into our own circus. I don't know how to describe it. But anyways, let me just go back to the top of the food chain thing. We are so not part of the food chain anymore, guys. We are so not part of the food chain anymore. We have taken ourselves completely out of the natural circle of life. What we're doing to the animals is not at all part of a natural cycle of the food chain. We, like I discussed before, we take these innocent animals and we put them in cages that are so small that they cannot move, and then we artificially breed them to crazy amounts. We're talking billions and billions of animals. How is that part of a natural food chain cycle? It's not. These animals are not meant to be in small cages like that and imprisoned from birth to death just because we feel like eating a steak. If everyone went vegan overnight, then what would happen to all the animals? What would we do with all these cows and chickens and pigs just running around free? What would we do with all of them? Let me just say my answer without rolling my eyes. The world is not going to go vegan overnight. It is a gradual change. It is going to be a slow, gradual change. Slowly but surely, the demand will decline. Now, because these animals, cows, chickens, and pigs, mainly, are being artificially bred in this system, if the demand goes down, slowly the supply will go down. And eventually, if the world goes completely vegan, then eventually that supply would diminish to the point where no more animals are being bred for the purpose of consumption. So you would not have billions of cows, chickens, and pigs running around this earth simply because people went vegan. People are not just going to randomly change overnight all of a sudden. This isn't some crazy Hollywood movie. This is reality. Slowly, 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 people are going to go vegan. Slowly, that demand will go down, and slowly that supply will go down. So you will not have an issue where there are billions of cows, chickens, and pigs running around. It's just not plausible. Okay, I'm gonna do one last one, which is you can't make a difference because you are just one person. I understand why people would say that, because sometimes you can get very defeatist because you think like, literally I'm like one person out of like 7 billion people, and like everyone around me is eating meat, and how can I change anything? But the thing is, it only takes a small group of people to begin with. That's how anything starts. How did any social justice movement start? How did any, real change start? It's usually with a very small minority group of people that decide that something is not right and they stand up against the status quo. This isn't going to be a big group of people because it takes a certain mindset and a certain person to be able to kind of go against the grain. So if everyone had this mindset that you couldn't make a difference, then no change would have ever happened in our world. how did anything ever become better? How did anything ever progress out of the status quo? Think about how different life must have been. Think about how different societies must have been even 10, 20, 30 years ago. How did all those changes happen in the last few decades? Because few people decided that they can make a difference and that they can change the world. And that is how it happened. Honestly, that is how it happened. That is how any movement begins to happen. Of course, you are not going to change things overnight. Of course, it's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of time and more people. But the fact is that you cannot have this mindset that you won't make a difference, because if you have that mindset and everyone else has that mindset, then nothing will ever change. I would also like to point out that people, again, don't usually say this unless it's about veganism. Because think about voting, right? People go to the voting poll or whatever to cast their vote at an election, at a political election. People vote for the president of the United States. We vote for the prime minister, like whatever. We make these votes every few years. And a lot of people go. A lot of people go to cast their vote. So why is it then, when it comes to that, all of a sudden your vote matters and every single individual vote matters? But when it comes to something like veganism, where literally every single day you're making a vote, every single day you're making a decision to eat animal products or not to eat animal products, and that economic vote is huge. It's huge. It's, in my opinion, much greater than any political vote that you do every few years. If you're gonna vote for a political party, but you're not going to make a change in your personal life every single day because you think it's not going to make a difference, that is not very smart. Economics and money, basically, whether we like it or not, plays a huge role in our society and societal change. The best way we can vote is through our money, is through our consumer power. Essentially, if we want to try to change what's happening right now, it's probably through not spending money on things that we know is harmful for the environment, harmful for the animals. So that is how I want to end this. I hope I wasn't all over the place, which I think I was. My throat is hurting. I talked quite a bit, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Check out the other videos in my playlist that will be linked down below, where I talk about different vegan issues. If there is a specific topic you want me to discuss in the next one of these, then leave a suggestion down below. I would love to consider what you guys want me to discuss. Yeah, if you guys are new to this channel, I do normally lots of recipe videos, but I sometimes just discuss veganism and vegan lifestyle in general, so definitely don't forget to subscribe. And if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, leave me your thoughts down below, and I'll see you guys in my next video.